Welcome back, everyone. So far, we've talked about what verbs are, how they change form, how they mark time with tense and aspect, and even how they express attitude or possibility with mood and modality. Today, in this video, we're going to shift gears a bit and look at something more structural, argument structure, also called valency. So here's the big idea. Just like atoms in chemistry have a certain number of bonds, verbs have a certain number of slots for other words. These slots are called arguments. So these arguments are needed to make a sentence feel complete. Some verbs only need one argument, while others need two or even three. Understanding this helps us see why sentences sometimes feel incomplete or awkward if the verb doesn't get what it needs. The technical term for the number of arguments a verb requires is valency. Arguments are the participants in the event described by the verb. Let's take the verb kick as an example. From the meaning of kick, we know there has to be someone doing the kicking and something being kicked. That means kick has two valencies. The kicker, which is the subject, and the kickee, which is the object. For example, Charlie Brown kicked the ball. In plain language and simple terms, some verbs can stand alone with just a subject, while others need objects or complements to feel complete. If you don't give the verb what it needs, the sentence feels incomplete. For example, she sleeps, which has a subject and a verb, sounds complete, but she reads sounds incomplete. What does she read? But she reads books is now complete. So verbs can be classified based on how many arguments they require. That brings us to intransitive, transitive, and ditransitive verbs. Intransitive verbs need only one argument, which is the subject. You should be familiar with how to identify a subject, but I've also made them in bold in these examples. So in my examples, we have she sleeps. They arrived. The baby cried. Notice that these sentences are complete with just the subject and the verb. There is no direct object required. Transitive verbs, on the other hand, need two arguments, a subject and a direct object. I've made the subjects bold in my examples, just like before on the previous screen, and I've underlined the direct objects this time so you can see the different placements. If you're not familiar with what a direct object is, the direct object is the entity receiving the action. So in my examples, she reads books. Books is the direct object and she is the subject. We also have other examples. They built a house. He loves music. So in each of these sentences, the direct object completes the meaning of the verb. Without it, the sentence would feel unfinished. Now, ditransitive verbs are verbs that need three arguments: a subject, a direct object, and an indirect object. Quickly, for those who aren't familiar with what an indirect object is, the indirect object is usually the recipient of the direct object. And remember, the direct object is the person or entity who benefits from or receives the action. So to make this easier to see, in these examples, subjects again are bolded, direct objects again are underlined, and indirect objects are italicized. So several examples here. She gave him a book. They sent their friend a letter. He taught the students grammar. John gave Mary the book. Now notice the slightly different word order in the last example. John gave the book to Mary. Here the direct object comes first, followed by the indirect object, introduced with the preposition to. So this is just a different syntactic structure called the prepositional indirect object. But the valency is still three. The verb still needs a subject, a direct object, and an indirect object. The slots haven't changed. So whether you say John gave Mary the book or John gave the book to Mary, the verb's valency, three arguments, is still the same. There's another special type of verb, the copular verb, which we first introduced about in our very first video of this series. So these verbs link the subject to a complement instead of taking a direct object. For example, she is a teacher. The soup tastes delicious. He became angry. And copular verbs take a noun or an adjective as a complement. So an adjective complement as an example. You look tired. Tired is the adjective. A noun complement. Mary became a teacher. A teacher is the noun phrase complement. In simple terms, copular verbs create a link rather than performing an action on objects. Here's a quick way to remember valency. If it's an intransitive verb, it has one slot. It requires one thing, which is the subject. If it's a transitive verb, it has 2 slots. It requires 2 things, a subject and a direct object. If it's a ditransitive verb, it has 3 slots. It requires 3 things, a subject, an indirect object, and a direct object. And if it's a copular verb, it has a linking slot, which requires a subject plus a complement. And remember how each verb has its own rules. You can't just swap verbs around without breaking the sentence. For example, she gave him a book is correct, but she gave is incomplete, it feels unfinished, or she slept a sandwich doesn't make sense. Verbs control the structure of the sentence. They decide what arguments are needed. Valency helps us understand sentence structure and why sentences feel complete or incomplete. In our next video, we'll move from valency to active and passive voice, seeing how arguments shift depending on the verb's form.